When you've won as many PBA titles as Pete Weber has, it's a pretty tough task picking out his greatest moments. But that is what we're going to try and do in today's video. Out of Pete's 37 PBA titles, there are a few that stand out amongst the rest for a variety of reasons. Some were in the face of adversity or long title droughts, and others were just a dominant display from start to finish. So let's jump straight into the video where we'll be looking at Pete Weber's top 5 greatest PBA wins. Number 5. The 2013 Tournament of Champions. After winning the 2012 US Open at 49 years of age, I think many would have thought that that performance would have marked the end of his career. However, Weber wasn't quite done and managed to win the 2013 Tournament of Champions for his second TOC win, but more importantly, his 10th major title, which at the time tied him with Earl Anthony for most majors in PBA history. So Weber entered this tournament as the number 1 seed, and he was chasing history. He would end up facing two-handed Jason Belmonte in the title match. Weber ultimately managed to get the better of Belmo, but this was almost like a bit of a changing of the guard, because although Belmo was already dominant on the tour, he would eventually go on to break Weber's and Anthony's major record of 10, as Belmo currently holds 14 major titles. So to me, this match represented the two extremes. It marked the end of the career of a PBA legend who managed to defeat one of the best up-and-coming talents of bowling during that period of time. This would be Pete Weber's last ever win on the PBA Tour, and it was certainly one of his best, earning a spot on this list. Number 4. His comeback win in 2010. PDW was seeking his 35th PBA title at the time, but the problem was he was having a number of struggles on TV. His last win came in 2007 at the US Open. So heading into this event, it had been almost 3 years without a title for Pete. He had had 2 second place finishes out of 9 TV appearances in that 3-year drought. He came into this tournament as the number 2 seed at the 2010 Lumber Liquidators Marathon Open, where he would face Brad Angelo. This was certainly a tricky match for Weber, as Angelo had just defeated Chris Barnes in the previous match, where things had got quite heated. It was clear that Angelo was not only fired up from the last match, but also lined up quite nicely. It looked like Weber's TV struggles were going to continue when he missed a single 10-pin, but ultimately he managed to get things together and defeat Angelo to face Mike Scroggins in the final. Again, this was yet another tough match, as a win for Scroggins would have resulted in him winning the Player of the Year award. Weber started strong, however, with the first 5 strikes, while Scroggins looked like he was struggling to find his top form. Weber left a 4-pin in the 6th frame and followed with a strike in the 7th, but Scroggins managed to click into life, throwing 4 in a row to reduce Weber's lead to 10. But Pete held his nerve, striking in the 8th and 9th frames, where Scroggins then went light, missing the pocket 2 frames in a row, handing the win to Weber. This win made the list, as it was an excellent performance from Weber, considering both his struggles on TV at the time and the fact he had gone 3 years without a win. And this win was just that extra bit special, as he was bowling on the oar pattern named after his late father, Dick Weber. And just before we continue to number 3 on this list, I'd just like to ask you all a small favour. As I've mentioned in most of these videos so far, this is a brand new bowling channel still, and I'm trying to grow this channel as much as I can so I can reach as many bowling fans as possible. So if you've enjoyed this video so far, I would really appreciate it if you could go ahead and click the subscribe button below. Number 3. The 1987 Tournament of Champions. By 1987, Pete had already won 9 PBA titles, but he was still seeking his first major win. He would have to not only climb the ladder from the 5th seed, but he would also have to overcome 4 excellent bowlers in Mike Albee, Mark Roth, Art Trask and Jim Murtashaw. This alone was a pretty impressive feat, but the fact that this was his first major just made it even more of an excellent performance from Pete. With this win, the 24-year-old Pete Weber became the youngest PBA player ever to reach 10 titles. It would mark the start of Webber's superb major record and certainly deserves a place on this list. Number 2. The 2001 Greater Louisville Open. Webber came into the TV finals of this event as part of the wildcard match, where he faced Brian Himmler. Pete managed to advance shooting a 204 game, needing just 8 pins to advance in the 10th frame. He then went on to face Norm Duke in the semi-finals. In this match, he switched over to the outside part of the lane and really started to get something going, throwing 8 straight strikes to shut Duke out with a 260 game. Norm bowled pretty well, shooting a 227. Unfortunately for him, he just couldn't get the carry when he needed it, leaving 4 9-pin spares, and the rest of the shots were all strikes. So on Pete went to the final match, where he would face Michael Haugen Jr. Haugen Jr. was seeking his first tour title, and Pete really went to town, throwing strike after strike. But Haugen was unfazed and managed to keep up with Pete for most of the way. Haugen still had a max score of 279, while Pete was still perfect and looking for a 300 game with the front 9 in a row. Haugen stepped up in the 10th frame and was clutch, managing to strike out for a 279. This forced Pete to throw the first strike in the 10th, which he managed to do, and we saw a classic PDW celebration. Unfortunately, Pete couldn't get his 300 game, shooting a 289. You have to feel so sorry for Haugen for bowling a 279 game, but still not winning his first ever title. But from the semi-finals on, Pete was just dominant, and the fact that he also came in through the wildcard match makes this one of the best wins of his career. This final match was just a joy to watch, with both bowlers at their absolute peak, and it certainly goes down as one of the best matches in PBA history. Number 1. The 2012 US Open. This might be a bit of an obvious choice for first place because of how famous this match became, but if you just take away the whole "who do you think you are, I am" thing, this performance was pretty mind-blowing. It had been 2 years since his last win at the 2010 Marathon Open. At 49 years of age, he was looking for his 5th US Open, which would put him at the top of the list of all-time US Open wins. He entered as the 4th seed, and once again he had to climb the ladder all the way to claim the title. Not only did he have to do this on a pretty brutal pattern, but also against incredibly stiff competition. He faced Ryan Schaefer in the first round, Jason Belmonte in the semis, and lastly Mike Fagan in the title match. What's more, each match was extremely close, as basically each time Pete had to step up and get the job done in the 10th frame. But really it was the final match that just sums everything up. Pete needing to throw a strike in the last shot in the 10th to capture the title. It really doesn't get much more satisfying than this, and in terms of bowling, Pete was at the top of his game all day. And although this win is certainly his most iconic, it is also one of his greatest, if not the greatest performance as well. We mentioned earlier about some of the TV struggles that Pete faced during the years of 2007 to 2010. Well, he certainly put all of this behind him in the 2012 US Open, and even though it had been yet again 2 years since his last win in 2010, you certainly never would have guessed it, with Webber looking pretty much at home right from the get-go. I think that this is just one of those matches in PBA history that will simply never be forgotten. So that brings us to an end for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this list of Pete Webber's greatest wins. Please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which title do you think was Pete's greatest ever performance? Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you bowling fans, and see you all next time.